Hi, I'm Amanda McCoy-Flanagan.
And I'm Ginny Smith. Welcome to Soul Rising.
On this podcast, you will hear honest, off-the-cuff, vulnerable conversations about all things love, loss, and connection.
Deep and meaningful conversations sure to pull at your heartstrings and enlighten your soul.
Again, welcome. It's time to let your soul rise.
Have you had to pick up that dreaded phone call in the middle of the night that you knew was bad news? Have you ever given or received divorce papers? Have you had a job or career that came to a sudden end that you were not prepared for? Were you given a diagnosis that would change the trajectory of your life forever? Did these pivotal moments set you on a hunt for deeper searching and understanding, or did they leave you angry, ready to abandon the idea of God and spirit altogether? What is up, everyone? Welcome to episode 6 of Soul Rising.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back.
Welcome back. This little nugget of soul exploration and evolution is called See You on the Other Side.
So, Ginny, I just got to tell you, amazing title.
Yeah, I was hoping you would like it.
I love it. Ginny is the mastermind behind this episode, and she did an awesome job writing out some notes and just giving us some ideas to chew on to talk to you guys today about what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, it was a little, Amanda, so she's been our guru for this. So she has it down, and I was like, wait, what? I'm going to wait, what? A little bit scary, but also super cool because she trusted me enough to do so, which is badass. Thanks, Amanda.
Yeah, you did an awesome job. I love the title. See You on the Other Side.
Right. And
so intriguing.
There's a lot, there's the other side of a lot of things, not even always just like of a death of a person, right? But first off, thank you guys so much. We really cannot thank you enough for being on this adventure with us. None of this would be at all possible without you and your willingness to have an open mind and to listen to some different ideas that may not have always been what you thought. We're all trying to rise together.
Yes, together.
Yes.
That's the key word.
Yep. And again, we're not all on the exact same path, but man, there sure are a lot of things we can do to help each other on the one we're on.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys being here with us is such a huge part of that. There's so many podcasts out there, many that I even listen to myself. We know you have choices all the time and that there's so many people giving incredible, life-changing information out there. So the fact that you're here, making a choice to be here with us, listening and sharing in this adventure with us, it just really means everything.
Yeah, even if you're catching 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 10 minutes at the gym, 10 minutes in the car, whatever it is, we really hope that we're packing these episodes with useful information for you and that you feel that this is a safe place where you can really tap into what's going on inside and get really real with yourself.
Exactly.
And
you have safe space. You have
safe space here with us and safe space inside of you to feel safe enough to say, you know what? Yeah, I can look at this stuff. I can go all into this stuff. So, Ginny, you want to tell them what we're going to talk about today?
Well, yeah. So today we're diving into how death, right? And I say the word death, and the many forms of loss, many of which are not commonly identified as loss, how that shapes our path to spirituality. Or how does it hinder it? Because it absolutely can do both. And how does this affect the way that we connect to one another? Death is one of those things, right? It's still just mind-blowing to me that through all of the years of evolution from the time we're we weren't even standing upright, we have known the entire time it's in us. It's the one thing that forevermore we're going to go through, whether it's our own death or those around us or the phases of life.
You know what's interesting about that? Loss is like the one emotion and grief, I believe, even more than love. Because some people never really learn how to love.
Right.
But I think everybody cannot avoid the feeling of loss. It just comes so naturally when you're going through some sort of grief, not just death of a person, which that's probably the greatest form of grief that
concentrated.
We feel. Yeah, the most impactful and saddest. But loss comes in so many ways that we don't even recognize. We're going through little minute losses multiple times a day. And we don't recognize them as loss. So we don't know how to grieve these things and then move on with a healthy, fully embodied mindset.
Part of you stays trapped in the grief part of it, right?
Yes. So we're not
takes up space.
internalizing it. We're not going through the process in order to release it, to then open us up to be available for whatever emotional situations are coming up next. So
even the
grief,
good ones, it's like the beautiful ones,
yes,
the ones that like offer positive experiences. These deaths, whether again they be small or of a phase in our life, and we're going to get into that a little more, but it can take us to our knees. I mean, it just literally stops every bit of our life in where we're at.
Yeah, you cannot engage and go into the positive, joyful parts of life without fully going into the grief and processing that. Like one has to do with the other. So if you're stuck in that grief, you're not going to be able to enjoy life. So
Right.
what we're going to talk about today is how grief has enhanced your spirituality or your belief in the other side or your belief in God.
Or spirit or just something bigger than us.
Or have you run away from it? Have you turned your back on it? Have you said, you know what?
Has it turned you off from spirituality or the idea of spirit because of the fact of how angry and how painful, right? I mean, these things can be super, super painful.
So painful.
And I was thinking, one of the things I'd kind of explain it is that like these types of pivotal moments that we have, they're sudden and they're so impactful that in an instant, they have the power to literally transform us, can move your spirituality to like this just extreme high level from something that was just so painful, but it can also turn us into a war zone.
Yeah.
Like
both.
literally.
It can either bring you higher or it can bring you lower, and without your consent. Without you're even like doing it. You're not like consciously saying, you know what, I'm pissed off that this happened. Screw you, screw this, screw God, whatever you want to say, right? You're not consciously making these choices.
No.
There's something higher working through you that we are susceptible to.
Well, the other part of it is like death is the one thing we have zero control over. No matter how much money, power, magic, doesn't matter who you are. You could be the richest person on the planet, and death is the one thing that's like,
We're all gonna die, people.
Yeah.
We're all gonna die.
That and you aren't going to change the outcome of this circumstance.
And the people around you, right? You could think, oh, I'm a good person. I'm out there in the world. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So yeah, my life is going to be good. I'm going to get these rewards, or I'm going to, I'm doing this and then I'm not going to experience this pain. But we don't have the power over somebody else's soul path.
No.
Right?
No,
like
not at all.
The time, these healthy people, oh, they were a marathon runner. They were 40 years old. Heart
had
attack.
an aneurysm.
Boom.
Yeah.
Done.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Right? So what you do is not correlated to, you're not gonna be able to protect yourself from loss.
At all.
And like we said, the different types of loss that happen in your life. And it was interesting, Ginny, on doing some research for this show, she was telling me about how our grieving process has changed so much.
It has changed so much. As our society has developed, it has changed a great deal. And it really struck a major chord with me because they were talking about, first off, I was looking into how did it affect society? How does it affect groups emotionally and socially? Death itself, right? Being that it's the one thing, again, I've said it, I'll say it again. It's just crazy to me. We figure out how to go to the moon. We figure out all this insane technology. Yeah. This one thing we know for sure, it's like we haven't evolved to develop this different way of processing, like this death thing, right?
How,
it's
like
crazy.
We will do all these amazing things in this world, yet we're most afraid of feeling.
Yes, we're most afraid of feeling. And this is what struck me, right? So I was telling you, Amanda, so industrial revolution, and again, when our lifespans were much shorter, we had 20 to 30 years. Even now we say, gosh, life is so short, and we get to live into our 80s and 90s for so long. You lived, it was 20, 30 years you got. But they were talking about how death was processed in such a different way. For instance, if it was someone who became ill or whatever the process was, that it happened in the home and the family was there as they had this time to process this, and the community. They were talking about how whether it be tribe or community, smaller groups, the entire community felt it together, mourned together. They were in it. We've come to a point now where someone passes away. It's generally in a hospital. We've got, our process of, the mortuary comes and gets them. And then we have, there's
swoop them up real fast, get it out,
fast,
clean.
Yes, keep it clean. That it's almost that we've tried to protect ourselves from the idea and the process of death. And
100%.
This particular article I was reading was saying, as much as we think, right, as humans, and we're so smart, aren't we? We're just so smart.
Yeah.
All these wonderful things we come up with, that it has probably impacted our long-term development of dealing with grief and death because we've cut out the part.
We skip right over it.
We skip right over it.
We don't want to look at it, right? How many of you out there have had major loss in your life that you still have not dealt with?
Oh my gosh. Like it still happens to me. Like I
Yeah.
realize, and it might be the death of, another person that all of a sudden I realize feelings from somebody who passed 3 people ago.
Yeah, 3 people ago.
Three. Oh, it's gonna, I tell ya, I gotta throw this in there because it was a little, and I joke people only because like really, and if you know me, and actually Amanda too, and probably you guys really with the past 3 years, the amount of people that I've known to pass away in the last 3.5 years is almost astounding. Our friends sometimes, and we kind of have to joke you guys just because
Gallows
for
humor.
me,
They call that gallows humor.
oh, it's such a survival thing for me, I think, but we use it a lot. Like we joke around, like our friends are like, I don't know if we should be friends with you guys. Are you really going to another funeral? Like,
yeah, right.
It sounds like, and I just came from one, you guys. I was in Los Angeles and an incredible celebration of life for my good friend Julian.
Who we talked about.
Yeah, who we
2
talked
shows
about.
ago.
Yeah, 2 shows ago. It was incredible. But yeah, it's been a lot of people. There's been a lot of people. And I know you guys have gone through the same thing too. We had some people pass over COVID times and we didn't get to have the funeral or do any of that. And I suddenly found myself grieving like for our friend Carla, who passed in March of 2020, like right before the world shut down on the 9th she passed.
And it was from COVID?
No, she had a lot of things happening, but it wasn't due to COVID. But because of COVID, no funeral, no nothing.
I know that time was so sad. The loss of connection and being together like old people,
grieving
right?
process.
Like, did you ever see, so did you see those videos of like the old man going up to the window to kiss his elderly wife on the other side of the glass? And I know that those things had to happen to protect the people
vulnerable
that were most at risk. Exactly.
It's
heart-wrenching.
Heart-wrenching. And honestly, really, Amanda, I mean, it's probably part of what ignited both of this thing in us, both you and me, right? That whole COVID time ignited a lot, as we know. As I sit here with Amanda's amazing book.
Yeah,
like in my head, I've got the copy.
She got a proof. I was like, hey, you want to wait until like the real one comes? And she's like,
hello? I'm on no. I want that one that says, hey, you can't sell this because it's the before version. And only the VIPs. It's an incredible book, and you guys absolutely need to go out and get it. It's called Trust Yourself to Be All In. Safe to Love and Let Go, right?
Safe to Love and Let Go. Yeah, it's on Amazon. I launched yesterday.
Oh my
Super cool and
gosh.
exciting. I made it to a couple of bestseller lists, a couple categories. In the top, I think I'm number 7 right now in one, and number 14 in another, 15 in another.
Amanda.
Super exciting, and it's kind of all feeds this. It's so cool, Ginny, that you suggested this topic because this is very much what my book deals with. First of all,
this whole thing
was my inability to handle the grief. Like you said, I had 5 close family members.
You did too. That's right. That's what I'm saying. Like you had the
3
same
years that I didn't grieve until my brother died. And I was like, and
all at once,
all came up. So the purpose, my mission, the reason why I'm so passionate about all this stuff is because I don't want you out there to have to go through what I went through when it finally came up and smacked me in the face, and I almost ruined my marriage, and it just came out in all these sideways ways.
Yes,
that, like, if you can learn anything from my experience and do the work necessary now instead of continuing to push this stuff down and push this stuff down. I wasn't really aware I was pushing it down.
Most of us aren't, though.
That's the crazy thing.
Most of us are
so you
not.
could be doing all the stuff, and
you think
it could still rise up and smack you right in the face. Yes. And that might have to happen for you. But there are some tools in my book, and you might be able to see yourself in my story. And you could be like, okay, that's why I felt this way, or that's why I did this, or that's why this behavior came out. And you might not know that it's related to your grief. So.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think I'm pretty blown away, intrigued, all of those things by what this grief can bring up for us. And again, it's one of those like elusive things, right? You don't know that it's coming from your grief, but you hear these stories.
It's a beast. Grief is a beast.
And you hear the stories of like, yes, it does. It can bring you closer to the idea of spirituality. But gosh, man, I know so many people that literally who maybe even grew up with like and whether it was religious or maybe not even just spiritual, but I know more than one person who lost somebody very close. People who lost their sibling, like you have, that were like, screw all of this. There's no way there's a God, because if there was, there's no way in a world where there's a God these things could happen.
I used to have like sponsees back in the day that we'd get to the 3rd step, which is about turning your will and your life over to the care of God as you understand him, her, it, whatever.
Right.
And they would say, well, if there was a God, why do babies die? Why are there wars? And I had to really kind of think about that and say, what do I believe? What do I believe? Where do I stand on that, right? And what I came to was, I do not believe that God is a puppet master up there doling out rewards or punishment based on what you're doing or not doing. I believe that our own souls, our higher selves, have a purpose and a mission, and when they're ready to go, we're ready to go. And I don't think that God plays a part in making those decisions as much as we think she, whatever, does. Like I said last time, I believe we're in a partnership, right?
A soul contract situation.
Yes, like God definitely is involved in everything, but I think our souls have more autonomy
than we realize.
Yes, and our higher selves make more decisions for our own self. So I believe it's not God's doing when this stuff happens. And I had a therapist tell me once, like, people don't like to hear it, but sometimes it's just the balancing of life. Yin and yang, somebody's got to go for something else good to happen for somebody else, or...
Yeah, well, and I've had that simple thought just in talking to my kiddo Sandy the other day. I forgot what it was we were talking. I think actually because she was talking to me about how bad she felt. Because she's a feeler, this one. I'm like, I thought I was a feeler. I'm like, this kid's a feeler. She is amazing. But she was just really having a hard time because she's talking about how bad she felt for me, that so many people that I know are either in the process of potentially, in a bad state, or, potentially we could lose them, or the people that have passed away. And I told her, but I'm okay, baby. Like, I'm all right. I said, it's okay. And she's like, but that's just so much. That seems like so much sadness. And I was telling her, yeah, but it's kind of like, the night turns into day, the day turns into night. I said, as much as there's times where we need the night, that's where we rest. The night is no better or worse than the day.
Yep.
And it's a similar deal that at the same time we have this opportunity, we're going to have those moments of stages of our life changing, of things going away. At the same time, the same level of things coming in are there. But sometimes our focus stays on what has left, what has lost, what has ended. And we can often miss the things coming in, so because it just feels so prominent.
Yeah, and so it's all about perception, and the story that you tell yourself around loss and pain and grief, that story then creates this narrative for you of how am I going to use this grief and this experience to elevate me, to bring me to more emotional freedom or soul evolution, or am I going to grow internally? How am I going to choose to look at these events? And the way that I choose to look at these events are either going to enhance our spirituality and bring us closer to ourselves, to others, to God, or it's going to drive us further away.
Right.
And I don't think there's any in between.
No.
I think you either go in one direction or the other.
It's true. When we lose, again, when things end, we get faced with our own mortality. We get faced with questions of why.
That's why we don't want to look at it.
That's why we don't want to look at it. Which blew my mind again about that whole thing about how whole entire communities used to grieve, because they said what they didn't used to be a time frame. That was the other thing.
Yeah. Like, you've got to be done by this day. Oh my gosh, he died a month ago. Why are you still crying?
Why are you still crying? And that because of the fact that one of them went, and it might have been the guy who was the medicine man, the whole community, they felt the impact of one loss gone. So they all grieved it together, where now it's kind of like,
it brought them closer together.
It always did.
That's why community was so much stronger then, because they felt this stuff together. When you're getting vulnerable with somebody, it brings you closer together.
Yeah. And that's every single time. And
that's the only way, really, I think, that people can really, like, relationships, romantic relationships, stuff like that, friendships. You don't ever go into that real deep connection with somebody until you have those experiences of
type of loss or vulnerability.
Yep.
It's kind of that double edge. I had the conversation with Julian's kids and his wife while we were there, talking about how I do believe that we do get this gift when someone passes, that, and we all will recognize this in a different way, but that all of a sudden, all at once, you feel the impact that they've had on your life, the positive impact. We kind of overlook that sometimes when they're here. That's why it hurts, but it's also, it can hurt as much as you can recognize, like, oh my gosh, the impact that this person had on me, their presence, what they brought here, their essence. We have the opportunity to have that gift, but it's also the only time, for the most part, everyone's egos get checked. You walk into a memorial. For the most part, we also have other parts of our emotions that get very heightened, but for the most part, it's like your ego gets checked altogether, all at once. So we're missing some opportunity, I feel like, in maybe back in those older days when they grieved together without us really doing it on purpose, but we've missed some opportunity in being able to find some different tools of grieving loss, because we just cut ourselves off from it so fast. It comes and it goes, it's done, and then we expect someone to be back at work next week and everything's good and we're fine.
Because it's an uncomfortable, unpleasant feeling. So we avoid going into those places with each other.
Yeah.
Because nobody ever wants to feel bad.
Or vulnerable. Your guard is down.
Yeah. And that's it. And you don't know what's going to come up. You don't know how you're going to feel. So you're trying to control it. So if I don't have to go into it with you, I'm more in control of it. Right. And speaking of like the time frame, like let's hurry this up, right? Let's get this over with. You know?
Yeah.
That also, I believe, speaks to the culture we're living in right now. This very fast-paced, distracted. I want to sit there and look at puppy videos all day long. I don't want to think about the pain that my friend is going through because her father just died. Maybe I'll shoot a text or I'll send a card or, you know, whatever it is.
But back to puppy videos
because those make me smile and I'm happy and I can check out of the quote unquote real world.
Do you think it's part of it too that we get so terrified of, and people will say this, like when you know you've lost someone, and I'm sure you could probably speak to this, where people almost get weirded out that they don't want to approach somebody who's grieving because like, it's almost like they want to catch the grief or something, like it's contagious. Oh gosh, are you going to give me grief? Yeah. Oh no, you're contagious. You know what I mean? Like, and I think
it's a shot for that.
Do we have a vaccine for grief? We should have one. I just wonder if it's because we have to think about our own mortality.
That's definitely part of it.
What did you experience that? Like, were people a little weird? Like they were like, "Oh, hey, Amanda," almost like. Not.
So the people that were able to really be there for me were the ones who've already experienced it. I brought in people much closer to me during that time period because they reached out to me over and over and over and over because their mother had passed. Three of the women that actually came in, three of the many women that came in that I'm thinking of right now, specifically their mothers had passed within like the last 5 years before that.
So still very new. That's new.
It was fresh. It was new. One of them, sister had passed away and she showed up for me. One of her husbands, I don't remember exactly who it was. We weren't that tight, but she showed up at my house with an orchid. And these people knew what it felt like. Maybe that's just human nature. Maybe we really can't go somewhere with somebody unless we've been there. Right. But I do believe that we probably have more of a capacity to do it than we're living in right now.
Than we know. Or than we realize.
Or than we know. Yeah. Like, listen, people, feeling this pain is not going to kill you. Actually, not feeling this pain is going to kill you.
Yeah.
It will eventually. I write that in, I don't know, maybe chapter. I think it's called Embrace the Pain. It's about how pain shows up in all these ways, whether it's addiction, whether it's workaholism because I'm running, whether it's shopping because I get a dopamine hit, whether it's sex, whether it's gambling. I mean, like
anger.
We've said this before. Yeah, anger.
People
the
get caught
addiction
up
to
in being
anger.
super angry because it's like better than feeling sad.
The other. Yeah. Yeah. So the things that we will accept into our life, which is some of them.
Or seek.
Yeah. That we're willingly going into to avoid feeling this, pain we're talking about, but all the other pains of life, right? Look at, weigh those two things. Like, is this worth this? Avoiding these feelings, is it worth the money I'm throwing down the drain with my gambling addiction or the money I'm spending at Nordstrom or the online shopping or going into debt, hurting my marriage because now we're fighting over money? All these different ways that this pops up. Is it worth it? Or can you say to yourself, you know what, I'm going to go into these feelings. I'm going to be willing to look at this. And nobody's saying you got to dive in head first and stay in the deep end of the pool for months and months and months. No, you take breaks, right? Like there are professionals who know how to lead you and guide you through this stuff. And if you do it, you will not only find a sense of freedom, you will, like you were saying, you will find a deeper connection to yourself and to spirit and to others. Grief has turned out to be a blessing in my life. I am grateful. I'm not grateful that my brother is gone or my cousin is gone. My cousin Kimberly, she died 4 months before Jeremy.
She was young also.
She was in her 40s and she was 48.
That's young.
And we were very close. It was very, very sad. But I didn't deal with her death until Jeremy died, and that's when it all came up. When I finally did deal with the grief, it opened up a whole new side of me that was there and waiting for me to step into. But I couldn't step into it until I dealt with the grief.
Exactly.
So I'm blessed where it brought me closer.
You feel like it brought you closer. Yeah.
But not before it brought me further away. I had to step into the dark. Like I had to step into the anger. That's just part of the grief process, right?
It is. And they say that. They say 7 stages, right? Generally.
There was 5. I think there might be more now. Yeah.
There's a lot. I sit there in my mind and I have this hope that we can find some way to start helping each, because we're not dodging it. It's not going away every day. Every single person around us, they're gonna go through it. And my hope is like, how do we find a way to start helping each other be present through these times? Because like what you're saying, I feel like there's this abundance of opportunity of really taking in what this life is and the experiences we're having and the people around us, that can only come through feeling the loss of it.
It's a gift.
Yeah.
If you look at it as a gift.
That's a hard thing for people to even
wrap their head around.
That's crazy. Like, what kind of crazy shit are you talking? It is not a gift. But at the same time, it's how you use it. How do you use it this weekend at Julian's Celebration of Life, of hearing all these people?
I love that it's called Celebration of Life, by the way. And that you all wore white and there was a ton of music.
Oh my gosh, so much music.
I told my kids today, I'm sorry to cut you off. I told my kids today in the car, the REM song, the one I love, was on. And my little girls, my youngest one, she was like, Mommy, who sings this? I really like this song. Cool. And I'm like, REM. And I'm like, you want to hear more REM? So I put on, I'm like, this is my funeral song, girls. And they're like, you're 42, you're thinking about your death already? And I'm like, no, but I'm, I love music.
But I got some ideas.
Yeah,
I got some plans.
I got some ideas of what I'd like it to look like. I've been to enough funerals. Right?
Oh, they're sad.
And mine is not going to be sad. I want them to stand up. I told the girls, it's your job to get up and form a circle. Everybody's got to hold hands, okay? And you're going to play Shiny Happy People.
Oh, I love it.
By REM.
See, you said REM, and I thought you were going to be like, everybody hurts. No, you did not. You did not go there.
I hate that song. I can't stand that song.
It's too much.
Oh my God. It makes
You
me
pulled
want
out.
to freaking kill myself. It's terrible.
No wonder everyone's getting out of their cars on the freeway in this stupid video. What is happening? But you pulled out Shiny Happy People. You just made my life.
Yeah. And I'm like, you guys got to hold hands by Shiny Happy People holding hands. So it's about you guys holding hands. The song is about you guys loving each other, if you listen to the lyrics of that song. But I would like you all to, whoever's out there that might be at my funeral someday, I would like you all to parallel your thoughts and your energy and your vibes to what you think might be going on in heaven, where I am. So I want to be there with all the people that you know that have passed, all the souls, all the departed souls.
Yeah.
Picture us with you in this Shiny Happy People with the flowers, the love, the gold, the silver, all the stuff that they're throwing around, the glitter, whatever the heck the lyrics are.
Yes. If you die before me, I'm bringing glitter bombs.
All of it. Yeah, seriously. Just have a freaking party and know that I am good, right?
Yeah.
And that was the thing that really helped me to create this conception of what the afterlife might look like, what the other side might look like, to get me out of this. It didn't get me out of my grief, but it gave me a path forward, a story I could tell myself. I was at my mom's. We were getting ready for my brother's funeral. I was in the shower getting ready, and I was crying in the shower, and I put on, of course, a Pearl Jam song. It's called Off He Goes. And I'm in the shower, and I'm crying, and I see Jeremy. Like, I just feel him. Like, I just feel, I feel like he was, like, above me, which we look up at the sky, like that's heaven.
Like our natural,
it's just all around us. And I saw him laughing and this bright smile, and he looked at me, and I'm going to probably cry. It's been quite an emotional week for me.
Yeah.
And he said, why are you crying, sis? I'm good. Like, I am so good.
Yeah.
And I believe I have a hotline to my brother and other spirits. And I really believed it and I felt it. Didn't take away my pain. I was still almost like in a blackout at the church, and I can't really remember much of anything that happened. But it planted the seed, right? I didn't take that and run with it right away, but it planted the seed that I was able to then remember a few weeks later and remember that moment and hold on to that and say, you know what? Jeremy is okay. He is okay. And is it selfish of me to want him here when his soul is so free and there's so much abundant joy and love and peace that we cannot even wrap our heads around as humans? You cannot imagine how blissful heaven is. Yeah. And I've never been there, so I really can't be like, whatever.
It's something you feel like that.
Well, maybe I have been there. I have been there.
Right.
I really have been there, but I can't confirm, like we talked about the amnesia in one of those episodes. I can't confirm what's going on the other side.
But something in you has a really strong, deep feeling of of a truth of what it is.
And what other people have told me. Like near-death experiences. I met this guy down in Florida, one of my dad's biker friends, actually. And we were having ice cream. It was like shortly after Jeremy died, not that long after. And I'm with the old 70-year-old bikers having ice cream.
Love
it was
that.
freaking awesome. I was
That's
down there by
amazing.
myself for my dad's birthday.
Yes.
My dad had mentioned to the table that I'm his spirit buddy, is basically what he said, because my dad also believes in a lot of this. And
I did not know that.
yeah, my dad
That's
is
super cool.
a man of many faces. He's
I
got
love
a
it.
lot of different parts to him, and
Doesn't
he does.
surprise me.
My dad's deep. You can get
Yeah.
him going. He's great. So we're leaving. So this one guy walks out. Danny was his name. Big, tall Irish guy.
Yeah.
And he comes back in, and he goes, "Oh, because when my dad said we're spirit buddies, he looked at me and he said, 'What does that mean?' And I said, 'I just know things. Let's just leave it at that. I know things.'" So he leaves. He comes back in and he's like, "I have to tell you something." He goes, I have like a message for you. Like I need to, and I'm like, who's this? Like out of left field. Like
And you didn't know him
never,
prior to this?
no. And you would never imagine this guy, what he looked like, who
Yeah.
he was.
Yeah.
So he comes over, he goes, "I've been to heaven." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah." He goes, I had a rough life past,
Yeah.
in the earlier years. He goes, and I died. He didn't tell me how. He said, and I went to heaven. He goes, I saw I think it was his aunt and his mother. And I said, "Well, what did it look like?"
Yeah.
And
Tell
he's
me.
like, "Exactly what you hear. Rolling hills of green, blue skies, white fluffy clouds." He's like, "It's exactly what you hear."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, what happened?" He said, "My mother said, 'Danny, it is not your time.
Clear as day.
And you're going back.'" They do talk about that we have these 3 exit times. Our souls choose 3
Really?
different times in life that we could go. Yeah. But, his story, there are thousands of these near-death experience stories.
Yeah.
And
A lot of similarities.
experiences that are all very similar. And I don't know why we have such a hard time as society wrapping our heads around it. Like
Yeah.
if 1,000 people are saying pretty much the same thing, you think they're all in cahoots?
You know what's interesting? And I've had people say, and I don't know how much of this is true, but even if it is true, it's still miraculous to me that it's chemicals that our body releases.
They say that. It could be part of it.
Right. But
Could be in
even if that,
conjunction.
could you imagine that we're designed in such a way, in such a magnificent way, that we have this thing that helps us as we're passing to be in this like world of bliss?
It
To me,
protects us.
Yes. So to me, even if it's like, it still leads me to believe in something bigger than us, that even if it is
Yeah.
just our brain dropping chemicals,
Yep.
that still, to me, proves there's got to be something bigger than us in our makeup that like has us made that way, you know?
Yeah. And for the skeptics out there, there's a book, I wish I remembered the name of it, but it's by a neurosurgeon who, spent his whole life in science. I actually know mediums that were in this other world, the business world,
The black and
or
white.
the science world. Yes. And then they have these experiences and it changes everything for them. And then
Yeah.
they believe. And this neuroscience, if you Google like neurosurgeon and near-death experience, it'll pop up. It's a very popular
Okay.
book. He talks about that theory that you just said, with the chemicals.
the dopamine and all that. We just get this mass insane amount of some that only happen during death.
And he proves how that's not a legitimate excuse for what he experienced.
I would love-
What many, 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 I said 1,000, thousands of people. There are so many testimonies out there.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe it's not taxable. Maybe it's not making somebody enough money. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we'd have too much control over our own destinies. I mean,
Maybe.
that's a whole, I'm digressing, but like,
Without the fear of death, you mean? That's kind of instilled in us, or the like,
well, that there's something on the other side.
right? The peace in that,
That
the
we
peace
don't-
it would give us.
I mean, I don't know. I really don't
Yeah,
know.
who knows? But also the idea that, I mean, it's probably the number one thing if someone's like, what's your biggest fear? Like if people are being real, a lot of people are afraid to die. A lot
They
of
say
people.
public speaking is over death. Actually.
Oh my gosh,
If you
really?
look it up, yes. Public
Oh my gosh.
people are more afraid of public speaking
Than death.
than death.
Oh my gosh, that's unbelievable. See, that's pretty mind blowing. I think for me, like I wish so bad that I had, because I've had loved ones really close to me that I know that still struggle. I wish so bad that I could give them some sense of like, no, there really is this level, because they've either not had the experiences you had. What kind of like support, love, and advice could we give to those people who don't have the connection to their sibling like you do, or don't have the connection like a lot of people They don't get the signs.
I would say, because my mom used to be like, she's getting them more now.
Is she?
But like, she used to be like, why does Jeremy come to you all the time? And I said, because I believe. He knows that I believe. If you want to feel connected to your loved one, you have to open yourself up to it because your brain is so powerful, right? I think that there's a misconception between like, okay, spirit's just going to boom, show up and give me a sign whether I'm ready for it or not. And sometimes that does happen. But in my experience, I have to be open and my brain is searching for these things. That is also true. But it's not that it's consciously searching for things. My brain is pulled towards things, I believe, because spirit is pulling me towards things. We're working together. This is the thing that I really want to drive home, is that it's not science or spirit. They're working together.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you want to get to that place, just start with something. You have to be aware. You have to be open. Your eyes have to be open. You have to be feeling.
Willing to be open to it.
Yeah. And then you might feel something or know something or hear something. And when I say hear, it's not an actual voice.
A song, it could be.
A song, yes. Or you could hear like a, just kind of like a message come into your head.
Yeah.
Like of words or whatever, like Jeremy saying, I'm okay, sis, stuff like that. And songs, very much through songs. So they know how you receive. They know, like me, I'm numbers. License plates.
Me too.
I'm big number
time.
Music and numbers really is my way. And you have to sort of identify those things that you have in common. What do you think they might show you? What experiences did you have with
together?
Them, right? Like, did you always eat pasta and meatballs with this person? But did they love chocolate ice cream? Whatever, I'm talking food, but like whatever it is. Did they love amusement parks, right? Maybe next time you're at an amusement park and then you see something, like, your eye is pulled to something that reminds you of them.
Right.
It's that stuff. So you got to be conscious. You have to be cognizant of how they might show up.
And to let it in, because if you're still so angry, if the grief is just still so overwhelming that you're so mad, it might be really hard to let those moments in because the anger protects us. It's a guard, but it's a guard from everything. It's a guard from those moments too.
Exactly.
So being able to find a way, right? It's like, again, you would think we would have more answers like on how in general to deal with these kind of losses. It's really amazing to me too, though, that obviously the one we think about immediately is the loss of like a human life or somebody we love. But golly, the same kind of grief stages happen, I know, for people who go through like divorce.
You are reading my mind, Ginny. I was just thinking that.
Were you?
I was just thinking, well, we started talking about other forms of loss, but we haven't gone there. So let's go there.
Yeah. I'm a child of divorce. My parents were married like 22 years, and it's a messy like situation, regardless of however it shakes down, even when people are mutually in agreement, or if there's just very, very similar, to me anyway, it seems that there's very similar stages of grief, it appears. Because if you've built a life with somebody, that's a whole entity of its own. If you've had children, even if you haven't, you've just built a life. And not even necessarily through divorce, it could just be the end of a relationship per se. But there's something you created together that is now dying. Yeah,
you're not just losing the relationship. You're losing all of those other areas of your life, events, moments, feelings, experiences that was built out of that relationship.
Right. Even if it is you're leaving it for the better health of you and the other person, it still doesn't matter.
That's the part, too, that I find very interesting is we look at loss as this negative thing, right? Like, oh, it's so sad, it's so bad. This is a negative circumstance, and I should feel sad and bad about it. We experience loss when good things happen, when any kind of change happens.
There's loss.
We experience loss of the familiar.
Yeah, right? Of the familiar.
Switching jobs, or when the company merges, your coworkers are changing, or just a way of doing things, your routine, a loss of a routine that makes you feel a sense of security. Exactly.
And it's
so much. There's so many ways.
Yeah. I know people in the past few years, COVID again, right? I can't tell you how many people I knew that got divorced during or within these years.
Yeah, because they were stuck home with each other and they were like, shit.
Turns out I freaking hate you. No, just kidding. But I mean, when you're really, I think a lot of it is turns out, oh God, but I'm having to look at myself too.
Turns out I'm feeling a lot and I can't go into it with you.
Yes.
That's what I believe a lot of divorce comes down to is a lack of being able to be vulnerable with each other.
Yeah.
And a fear of loss. We were going through so much loss. COVID was a complete time of grief, a complete time of loss. And couples could not go into that together.
Thank God I got sober before that period of time, because I knew a lot of people who crossed that bridge of being social drinker, person who was, pretty normally handled that and be full on just cross that bridge right during COVID.
What did they say? 75,000 people died in 2020, maybe in 2021. I don't know what the statistics are, but it was a astronomical amount of people, the percentage of people that became addicted and died from addiction.
I knew two of the very close ones to me. I mean, in somewhat long journeys, but had really hit their pinnacle.
And definitely from the isolation and the lack of social interaction, that definitely did a number on all of us, and depression and all that kind of stuff. But also, could it be the inability to really take in the magnitude of what was happening around them, right? Terrifying. And looking to escape?
Yeah, I'm sure.
And then you just cross that line. Like, that's how addiction works. Like, you're good, you're good, you're good. You're a normal drinker. And then all of a sudden, a chemical gets turned on. You step over this line, and there's no going back.
And sometimes it could be a loss or a death or whatever. But in that particular time, it felt like as the world, the global, everybody was losing, all the sense of identity, sense of security, sense of all these things. And tons of people got divorced. But I was going to say, I know a lot of people that ended long-term marriages. We knew one couple, we'd known them from back when we lived in New Mexico, that were like 32 years. And the wife was like, I'm out.
It's interesting, too. The flip side of this is that a lot of people met themselves.
Well, you know this firsthand.
Yes.
Right.
And met their true self. And they were like, yeah, this is not what I want. This is not where I belong. Yeah. And it's not okay, right? Maybe they were two ships passing in the night for years before that, or they had been feeling that, and COVID, like we talked about when we started talking on the show, it ignited something in us to make massive change.
Yeah.
So there were both things going on. So I can't say that. I take it back. I can't say all the divorce. I don't know. That's a generalization, right? But I'd say some of it happened for not being able to go into feelings together, and then some of it happened because people just
slowed down long enough.
Live authentically. Yeah, slow down long enough to say, who am I? What do I want? Right? A lot of people through like leaps and bounds.
Big time. And that's, again, right, on the two sides of this thing about loss, how it always offers this, we have this 50-50 shot. It's either insane loss like this offers this opportunity to either, again, just pull you farther or closer, like we said, to this sense of digging deeper, spirit or things of that nature, helping each other and recognizing anytime there's some change or loss, like even in a divorce, of people understanding too, even if you're the one who wanted it. Yeah. Even if you're the one who's like, I knew I couldn't do this, but now you're in it and you're in the process, and it's like, but this still sucks and this hurts. So they were expecting something to just magically change, that it's okay, and to not be afraid of processing the feelings of the things that are lost, the normal cycles that you knew, even if they weren't healthy.
Yeah, exactly.
Still okay to like mourn that.
Yeah. Yeah. And the interesting thing about grief around divorce is it's really the death of a wish, right? That you wanted something to be. You wanted this person to be. You wanted this relationship to be.
This idea.
There could be death of a wish of not just marriage, family relationships with your parents, with your children. You could want your child to be like you. Or you could want your child to be a soccer star, or you could want them to be a musician, whatever the hell it is. And they're just not.
Like, it's like, can be painful of like, but wait, I thought that everything was going to go this way.
Yeah.
And
it's just not. And you can't force people to be something that they're not, that they're fundamentally not made of or capable of.
Of even giving you,
It's they just don't want it. They don't see a need for it. It's just not in them.
Another one of my hopes and wishes and dreams. I've got lots, people. I've got lots.
That's awesome.
That I feel like
them. I love every one of your hopes and dreams and wishes, and I hope you share every one of them with me, Jen.
I love that you listen. Thanks, Amanda. Yeah, some of them are kind of batshit crazy, but some of them are great. So, I mean, and she listens. This is why she's one of my homegirl best friends. Por vida, dude, for life.
Oh, yeah.
That's why.
Baby.
But I think that in the idea of relationship too, right? We really grow up, even as little girls or little boys or whatever, with this mindset of, I'm going to marry someone who's going to make me happy.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to be in this marriage and then I'll feel fulfilled. Or we've been taught too, just in society, that it's like, well, yeah, you're going to find this person. They're going to fill you.
They're going to complete you.
They're going to cut you.
I think it's chapter 7 or something. It's in my book. That's exactly it. You're hitting the nail on the head.
I haven't even read it yet.
You haven't. You don't even need to read it. You got it. But Yes, Ginny, that's it. If you feel like somebody completes you or they make you feel like you're home, yeah, I mean, home could be, it could be an argument for that. But
Right.
this completion thing, red flag, big red flag.
Like, it's all fine and good now, right? Like, it's one thing if you're with someone who nurtures you continuing to find
To complete
your
yourself.
growth. Yes. And you guys can do it simultaneously.
Yep.
But with the second we start saying, if this person could just change how they feel about X, Y, Z, then it's going to match what I need. Or if this person could just do more of this thing to make me feel better.
So all those things are the things you need to be giving to yourself. That's why those partnerships exist, why you're unhappy in partnership and your marriage over time is showing you what you actually need to heal in yourself.
Right. And again, that grief we're talking about, or getting closer to or farther from spirit, of knowing like that we do have some control over the healing part and the grief, because so much of it does reflect back to this is stuff that need the healing part, the work. It's an inside job. Like it's an inside job. We're not really taught a lot of that. I don't feel like.
No.
Like as in a society, right?
Not. We're taught how to do like quadratic equations, you know, in like high school.
It's been so useful for me, you guys. Let me tell you.
Those goddamn quadratic equations.
I just used one this morning when I was getting gas.
Yeah, they really helped me in my time of need. I was laying on the floor. I was howling from the depths of my soul in pain. And those quadratic equations.
Thank you. Quadratic equations. It's freaking true. Why are we doing this in school, people? Instead of being
teaching people how to live, how to feel,
and how to like be more comfortable in our own skin.
Yeah. I don't even know what the hell a quadratic equation is.
I wouldn't know
where
if you slapped me in the face
to
with
my head, but
I don't know if I've done one. I don't think. I don't think I made it that far. Maybe I did. Really basic quadratic equations, but yeah, it's true. Like I feel like
figuring out these emotions is pretty much a quadratic equation.
Now that's true. Now you're speaking my language, because it's true. And again, why we're here. This is why we're here doing this show. And Amanda and I are able to connect and have these conversations. But it's like, I feel like there's more that we could be doing to help one another. You know, I got to talk to one of my wonderful, amazing friends. Her name is Jessica. She's incredible. And what a gift to be able to like get to meet this wonderful human being. She is the person who got me connected to Gateway. She works in a domestic violence situation. I help with the furniture there. Aside from that, she went through a diagnosis, because another loss, right? Like that we can go through is getting a health diagnosis.
Yes.
That you were not prepared for. Because then it's not even just like, oh, somebody, you know, that I've lost somebody I care about. All of a sudden you're faced with this very real possibility. Your mortality is like literally your idea of it shifts.
And everything has to change. Everything has to now be about treating your sickness, resting, whatever it is. You know, my mother had breast cancer when she was 44. She had to get a mastectomy. That is a huge loss.
She talked about this. We hear it so often. So many of us know someone who has or had cancer. So many, almost everyone out there. I know every single one of you knows someone.
Yes.
This was part of something I hadn't even, like you kind of vaguely think about, but she talked about that. That she went from this idea, you know, that she was always, she said, and I mean, I'm not saying this to be like vain, but really I was always the pretty girl. And she said, to get to this point where I'm watching my body
deteriorate.
And have 2 young kids, and she wasn't even 40.
Oh, man.
And when she got the news and got the diagnosis, they're like, oh, hey, sorry, we've kind of, you know, not caught this. You're stage 3.
Wow.
It's in your lymph nodes at this point. She's got 2 young kids. She talked about, because I had asked her, I said, how was all that for you? And I wanted to know, because I've never been through that, and wanted to know how it affected her spirituality or her lack of, or did it make her mad? Did it cause her to be closer to all those things? And she said one of those things of, it's not just the idea of loss of that, your actual mortality, but she said, my hair falling out and not having eyelashes. And then being somebody who had to have like this double mastectomy. And this part of me that was like, that identifies you as a woman.
Yes. So many loss, so many layers.
So much loss. Layers and layers and layers of loss. And it is...
was she mad? Did she go through anger? I mean, like, I guess everybody does, because that is the first stage.
I think she had a little bit of it, but it was amazing to hear her. And I hope someday we can have her like tell her whole story here, like with you guys, because it was just mind blowing. She said it actually, all in all, that it brought her closer to her spirituality because there was nothing left.
Well, you're desperate. You're desperate.
Yeah.
It's almost like people who, whatever, right? Like they don't believe in God until you need God. Sometimes we have to get to a point of desperation.
There was so many levels of the loss thing. I said, how did it affect your connection with people? I was really curious about that as we're,
Yeah, that's
going over
what
that
this is
today.
all about. Yeah.
She said it was really pretty eye-opening and astounding to watch because she said there were people who were like, yeah, cool, I can take you to chemo on Tuesday, that were like, Jess, I'm so sorry, but I just can't. I can't do it. Like, I can't.
You just can't step into it.
I can't watch you do this. I can't do it. And she said it was really a weird sensation to watch these people almost avoid her because of what it did to them.
Yes.
To know that she had this illness that could potentially, take her
I had a
life.
very good friend. That reminds me, I had a very good friend who pulled away from me after Jeremy died. It was really grief on top of grief on top of grief. And I processed this in therapy, and that's kind of what we came to. It was like some people, to survive out in the world, whether it's with their jobs or however, they've just been living this defense mechanism their whole life. And then this big thing happens and it kind of pokes at them a little bit.
Yes.
And they feel it. It hits a nerve. And then they don't know what to do, so they pull away, right? It's almost like that contagious thing like you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, am I going to catch your grief by being in it with you? And I guess it's a skill that has to be honed in terms of being able to be empathetic and be in it with somebody, but not completely take it on to where it's going to now devastate you and ruin the rest of your day, and you're going to be a basket case. Trust yourself to be able to do that.
To be able to do it and not be so afraid of what you might feel. That's exactly what she said. And her husband at the time, same thing. He couldn't handle that. She had this diagnosis and he had a really tough time.
A lot of partners either cheat or move away emotionally. It's a threat of loss. It all comes down to fear of loss.
I couldn't believe it in listening to her because I'm like, this is so much you went through.
Some people are just fantastic. Like they amaze me.
She blew.
I can't wait to meet her.
She's amazing and she's hilarious, which is like
Awesome.
Again one of my favorite things. And she said she used to piss people off because. Well, this also crushed me a little, but then she told me how she started to deal with things. But she worked for this company forever. She walked in and she didn't have her wig on that day. And because she just was, whatever, she didn't give a shit. This girl has been through so much chemo.
Great. Yeah.
And her boss said, he was so like rattled. And he goes, why are you not wearing your wig?
Wow.
Like disgusted.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, it crushed me to hear that. She's like, she's like, after that, I couldn't help it. She's like, then I just started doing weird shit on purpose. She said we'd be in like a meeting in the conference room and she would put her wig like halfway back so she looks like a clown. And she said, just to wait to see
the reaction
till somebody would finally say something. She's like, but that was like my coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Like that was because I had to find something.
And how long would it take somebody to actually
how long is it?
Hey, because they think it's so like, I don't want to embarrass you.
Right. Meanwhile, she's like, you have no idea what I go through on the
like
daily.
an idiot. Like, why wouldn't you tell somebody like that? I've been there, right? I didn't want to say anything or, But like, if you want to grow, have the soul evolution, right, that we're talking about, the spiritual freedom, getting closer to your higher self, closer to yourself and others, you must. It is a requirement for you to learn how to function from a place of emotional selflessness so that you can be loving and compassionate and kind to others.
Right. And not be afraid of the discomfort. To get out of the discomfort you might feel. She talked about that a lot, where she was like, it was weird and wild to see, including her husband. Their marriage ended because he was so terrified and but it also overtook him, and he ended up drinking a lot, and he ended up really having to run. And she said it was so weird to me because all of a sudden it was like he needed me to take care of him, but I was like, hi, I have stage 3 cancer. Like, can you maybe, I don't know, help me out? She said, and we had to end it because I knew for me, I didn't have the reserves. I knew I had to try to stay alive for my kids.
Yes.
I couldn't take care of him too, and like everyone else, right? But she said, I love that you guys are talking about this so much. She said, I don't know that people realize how to talk to or deal with or be around somebody in this situation. And she said, I can't tell you some of the weird shit that people would say to me. And of course it was out of discomfort. She's like, I don't think we know how to deal with each other in these places that scare us.
Yes. And the people that are going through the pain, like Jessica, or like me when my brother died and some of my friends kind of moved away, to lessen the grief of that loss, I try to look at these people with the compassion, right? Like, you know what? They just can't do it. And
Right.
and it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have to be taking care of them. I could set my boundaries. I don't
Right.
have to do anything, but internally,
Be
how
okay
I'm-
with that.
yes, to say, accept it, to say this is how it is for right
Right.
now, for right
Right.
now, you know?
And to accept it. That's so true. I feel like a lot of the times where some of this difficulty comes through, a lot of it is the idea of regret. I think a lot of the grief, even losing a person or losing a thing, is regret. Our own
Yes.
regret
Yes.
of what we didn't say, do while they were here. And if it's not a person, if it's a job, if it's a relationship, it's the regret. We don't even realize that so much of our grief is we are regretting what we didn't say or do in the process
Yes.
of that.
And when you can forgive yourself for being human or just not being at the place where you're able to give that best version of yourself. I mean, this is a constant growing towards this
Yeah.
best version, highest version of ourselves, which is just love, which is just utter and complete pure love. I don't know if we ever get there as human. I mean, it's definitely not comparable to what you experience in the afterlife. But
Right.
if I can forgive myself for that humanness of my experience, my life experience, right? We talked about last time, created the person that I am today. And maybe Jess's husband had a major loss. Maybe his mother died of cancer when he was 15. We don't
Or
know
who
what
knows?
went on in people's lives, right? What's making them function. So if I can forgive myself for being human, I can then forgive others for being human. And that is another spiritual axiom that I cannot forgive you until I can forgive me.
Oh, man.
It's huge.
It's so, so huge. Because it's the other thing, too. Or if someone passes and we're mad at them prior to,
Oh,
you
that's
know?
that's
God.
it's got to be a real shitty feeling. I know people who were not on good terms with my brother, or not on good terms with my brother, or people that my mom lost throughout her life, friends and stuff, and relationships that did not show up for her after my brother died.
That's always a weird thing, too.
Yeah.
You kind of like to be the people you expect maybe to come to be around to support you are like nowhere to be found.
And to like see and know that there is nothing in this life that could happen that could make certain people come back or come to you and say, you know what, I'm sorry for how things happened. You know, your son just died. Maybe I can put aside
Or
our
thing.
whatever it was, maybe just for today, maybe just for the 3 hours at the funeral. And then maybe we don't have to be friends again. But
for
just
right now.
or to send a card or to send flowers, just something to
anything.
acknowledge this pain, but then to be able again to forgive people for they just can't do it.
They don't have it. They don't have it in them.
And they say, hey, I wish I could. I wish I could. That's a torturous place. So there you could find compassion for people like that. The ones that know that they could do something differently and they just can't bring themselves to do it. That's torture.
Yeah. Yeah. If you find yourself in that position to be able to give that compassion or give that empathy or even have it every time each one of us practices it in a time where we might have the strength to do it and we might not have the strength to do it next
so
time.
hard.
But maybe if we do now, like
whenever you can, whenever you can tap into that.
Yep, whenever you can. Like any time that we can do that is going to just help that evolution, right? And help us to even further be able to gain more tools and support each other through these things, loss and death, where they're not going to go away. We know for sure we're going to have it. And how could we maybe just go about this in a way that one moment at a time that we might help each other gain some more tools.
Yeah. And to not retaliate too, that's another powerful weapon that we could use against the darkness and the pain in the world is if you could say, you know what, well, this person was not there for me, but I'm going to be there for them anyway.
Yeah.
Right? In their
it's like
time
turning
of
the
need.
tide, like literally.
That is like, boom, you are climbing up the ladder. You are ascending that ladder of that emotional freedom and spiritual evolution. Crazy growth.
Yeah. Insane amounts. I could probably be a whole other show on its own. We didn't talk about it, but I know a lot of you have lost people to suicide too.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other level of things because there is anger there.
Yeah.
And,
Why wasn't I enough? Why wasn't I?
Yeah. Or how could this person do this? Yeah. Like how could you do this to me? But also that comes back to, right, to that forgiveness. And I've lost a few people to that as well. I mean, we've had some close ones too. But again, that forgiveness, like that grief.
Think about how much pain that person was in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm hoping that it's an issue. There's a lot of people suffering and there's higher numbers of that happening. I'm hoping that we can help each other understand these feelings because somebody's already grieving. If you're getting to the point where you feel like you're done, you cannot see a way out of this, you're in grief. You have to be. There's no way that you get to that point without being in extreme grief of some kind of loss anyway. All these things are linked. All these things are linked together.
Yeah.
No matter how small, how big, whatever the loss, whatever the thing might be, every single one of you listening has had some kind of level of loss. You all have it. And I'm sure some of these things are ringing true. Some of them might seem foreign, but we all have them. So we can find that common ground of learning some tools.
One of my good friends said to me, I don't know when exactly in the journey of my grief, was don't waste the pain. Don't waste the pain. That's actually, I just learned it's a title of a book, but use it. Use this stuff to your advantage. You got to go through it anyway. You're feeling the pain anyway. What are you going to do with it? You're going to sit in it for the rest of your life and be pissed off and be mad and be angry about the way your life went, or I should have had this and it should have been different and this person should have done this for me or whatever. Or I'm just mad at the loss itself, right? Or you're going to take that and you're going to utilize it and you're going to use it to make you better, make the world around you better. It's the whole point. They're all the opportunities for growth.
Yeah, it's like I've never heard that. And that hit me. That's huge. Don't waste the pain, because it's almost like that's kindling for you. That's something to burn. That's something to create a fire.
Yeah.
In a good way.
To start it, right?
Yeah.
Like I talked about the pilot light inside.
Yes.
Light that shit up and let it just kind of burst and go and just go with it. You don't even need to know where it's going.
No. But let it ignite.
Yeah.
Let it be the thing that ignites instead of stifling that, right? That's huge. I think I want to read that book. But I have your book to read first. What? That is so
I'm an
cool.
author. What?
I can publish.
Self-published, but published.
It doesn't matter. You're on Amazon.
It's good, guys. I think you guys are going to like it.
You are. I know you're going to. And again, I only get to know a few of these things because Amanda and I have sat here and talked about some of the, unknowingly, there's times she's like, yeah, you know, it's in my book. I'm like, I didn't know that was in your book.
Yeah, because a lot of what I'm saying, it's not completely groundbreaking.
Right.
Some of the stuff, so when I was going through this process, I would tell Jim, my husband, why am I saying this? Everybody knows this. And he'd be like,
not everybody
they
does.
don't. Like, you know this because you've been working on yourself and you've been on a spiritual journey for almost 17 years.
Right.
You know this. A lot of people have never heard stuff in that book. And that's why you know a lot, Ginny, because you're on the same road of recovery. And and recovery aside, you're on a spiritual path.
Yes,
so
I feel like it. It's definitely
a lot of this stuff is just basic spiritual principles just played out in my life.
Yeah. That's the whole purpose. You're going to be able to share and you're going to be able to help tons of people in that way. And the thing is, every single one of us, if we can tap into that place of like not being afraid of being vulnerable, like you did, when we're vulnerable, we have this opportunity to not just heal ourselves, but we have this opportunity to help each other heal. And that's the coolest part about watching you do this, because it's not like you're like, oh yeah, I've been writing books forever. You've never written a book prior to this.
No.
And you were like, but I'm going to.
And I never wrote anything. I've never written an article. I'm an English major, journalism minor, but I've never published anything. I've never written anything except in my journal. I've been journaling for 16 years, but my ability to get vulnerable, that was really kind of against my own will. You know, that was divinely inspired. This stuff was literally pushed out of me.
Yeah,
like
there was no option.
It was like, again, Jeremy, like I felt him say, like, you're going to write a book and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, you're doing this. And and then I got really motivated and inspired because everything just started to click. I mean, it was 6 to 8 months of just crazy connecting the dots and just information downloading
because you were
so
open
much.
Finally. You didn't have the fear blocking. You were like, nope, let's go. Yeah. It's time to roll. I'm gonna
do this. Like, but I had to go through what I had to go through to get there.
Also super amazing though, because I think it should remind everyone out there that if you're here, are you breathing? Is there air in your lungs? It's not ever too late or ever not possible.
And that was the beauty about COVID too, like we said before. We were all looking at our own mortality from the million people that died around us. And it was like, is this enough? If I died today, would I be fulfilled and satisfied with what I've done on this earth? And I started looking at that, and it just kind of all came about. I told myself during COVID that I was going to get a job working for lawmakers and work with policy around climate change,
Right.
advocacy and laws, making legislation, stuff like that. Because I also have a social work degree, and social workers do that. They affect change through policy. So, and that's kind of where this whole thing was born. It was about, the basic idea was about helping the world and waking people up and bringing it back to connecting to self and others, because the chaos inside, I believe, is responsible for the chaos outside. So it kind of was the catalyst for this whole thing. It came out in a way that I had no idea was going to come out, right? Rewrite like 2 to 3, it changed into this memoir, personal development, but memoir still. Much more about my own story than it started as. But the introduction, you'll see, it's about helping the world move forward in a healthy, positive trajectory.
Yeah, because we need it. We need it now more than ever. And it's fascinating to me that you were in your mind, you were like, yeah, policy change, all these things. Meanwhile, you just doing it within yourself is probably going to accomplish more than you getting 25 laws passed through whatever.
Exactly. I believe that spirit is using me to be the most impactful. This is the way that I can impact through the podcast, through the writing, could reach the most amount of people, right? The changes has to happen in our individual hearts. You can make all the laws in the world, but if people are still walking around bogged down with grief and loss and pain and all this stress and anxiety, fear, all this stuff, it's keeping us out of the light.
Yeah. The invitation is there constantly for us to stay in that space, you guys. I know you know it. I know you know it. There's opportunity for us to stay in that pain and grief. It's sold to us. So it's sold to us. Just remember that. It's like, if we can help, we're listening to Amanda tell her story, but like even one of you figures out like, oh, you know what? Actually, I really am passionate, or I feel that I could like be doing this other thing that might help mass amounts of people. You have no idea what you hold inside.
Yes.
And when we can get past some of these things from grief and loss, it's going to be amazing. The more we can help each other do that.
Yeah, let it drive you towards your true self and what spirit is really heralding you to do as you walk the earth. So, well, let's leave you with the challenge. Ginny made it up. So, Ginny, do you want to drop the challenge on him?
Sure. I always love Amanda's challenges. And I was like, what could this one be? And in my mind, I was thinking, what are some of the things we could do on a daily basis, just something even today? The first thing that came to me was forgive them, forgive them and forgive yourself. Whatever it is today, because I know there's something, if it's something that you're holding regret about, forgive yourself today for it. Even if you can't keep yourself forgiven tomorrow, do it today. Think about just forgiving yourself. Yeah, just for today. And if it's your parent you're angry at, or if it's your ex-spouse or your current spouse, forgive them. Forgive them today. See what it feels like to not be walking around with that heaviness. Just for a little bit. Let yourself know what it feels like. Like, dip your toe in the water. I also think that, like, try to take the day, take your interactions with the next, 5 people you get to hang out with today, and treat it like it's the last one you're going to have with them. You don't need to tell them that, but treat it like it is. How would you want to leave that situation if you knew it was the last one? What would you want them to know? What would you want to leave them with? Say that you were going to be the one leaving. What would you want them to be left with? Not even necessarily that you're going to lose them. Treat it like they're going to lose you. What would you want to leave with them?
I love it.
Yeah. And just to see what that feels like. Just to be like, I love you and thank you, like, for being amazing. Even if that's what you leave with them, literally let yourself be in the feeling of, what do I want to leave them with? And what do I want them to know? What they've done for me.
And double points if you could do that while scared.
Oh,
if you feel the vulnerability, say you're sitting there and you're like, well, I really want to say this. I really need this person to know this, or, but I'm too afraid to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Extra points if you do it.
Extra points if you do that. Yeah. And let yourself really, really take that person in and let them take you in. Like, let them have that piece of you.
She's got this huge smile right now. She just loves this. I love it.
Yes, because I think our grief is lessened when we have less regret. I do. I really believe that. And I think if we could start even at a little bit at a time, just doing that. So let yourself do that. Really let yourself think, this is the last time they're going to have me today, or this is the last time I'm going to have this person. And then, God willing, tomorrow when you get to see them, let yourself experience that gratitude that you got to see them again today.
Yeah.
I mean, and to feel it. I think part of this came to me because we have a really good friend right now who's facing some really scary times and who's ill, has a terminal diagnosis. And every time we see him, and he's younger than 50, we have this opportunity of like, every time we've had this, like, this might be the last time. And then, because he's a gangster, all of a sudden we get another chance to see him. And the feeling that I get every time of like, yes, we got to hang out with him again. But every time I leave, it counts and it matters. We got to see him just last week and we laughed and it was hilarious because he talks so much shit about Tom to our, he grew up with my husband. He's one of my husband's best friends. And here's this person who's got all these other things on the plate and he's telling our kids about this hilarious story about Tom. And he's laughing. This guy has oxygen on, right? And he didn't let himself hold back on the laughter, even though this cancer's all in his lungs and everywhere. He didn't hesitate. And what he left our kids with that day, and everyone, all of us were laughing so hard. Not Tom so much. Sorry, honey. I know we were talking shit. You're the best. You're a good sport. But that feeling, I left there that day with something incredible. Wow. And I do every time. So if I want to start practicing that with people that don't have to be terminally ill for me to feel it. And that's the challenge I would hope for you guys too.
Yeah. Let's try to step into these feelings because that's who we want to be.
We could use this. The thought of death and the thought of loss can also, it can be a gift too, like you said earlier. So let's let it be a gift while we're still here.
Let's use it. It's here. Yes. It's not going away. Got to feel it anyway.
No.
We'll use it.
Let me know if you figure out how to stop death.
Yeah.
Send us an email if you figure out the answer to all.
Don't email us.
Our email address, Amanda, what is it again?
It is soulrisingpodcast@gmail.com.
Boom, that's it, you guys.
Soul with S-O-L, right?
Soul like the sun.
Like the sun, soul.
Yes.
Anyway, guys, all right. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Yes, we love and appreciate you all. We hope that you're growing. We're getting the chance every day getting to do this with you guys. So thank you so much for that opportunity because we couldn't do it without you.
Awesome. All right. We will see you back here in 2 weeks. Thank you so much for being with us. And we love you and we appreciate you.
Yes, we love you. Go do some living. Go do some living.
Go do some good living. All right. Peace out,
later.
everybody.
Take it easy.
If this podcast resonates with you and you want to dive deeper, check out my blog, Get Real, all in on love, loss, and connection at AmandaMcCoyFlanagan.com. That's McCoy with a K. You can also follow me on Instagram at Amanda McCoy Flanagan.
See you next. Until then, let that soul rise.